Welcome to Fireside Giants. My name is Alex. Today, a little update on John Mara's press conference that he held at 3:45 p.m. Right afterwards, just want to give you guys some updates, what was said, if you missed it, kind of overviewing what kind of happened and what he had to talk about. But there was a good range of topics that John Mara touched on. And one of the ones that really stood out to me was the recruiting process for guys like Kenny Golladay and Adoree Jackson. It seemed like the Giants really took a more involved method this time around, bringing them in. We know they brought Kenny Golladay in for a couple days, Adoree Jackson himself in for a day or two, and he really said that Joe Judge's process in vetting these players was thorough. Even John Mara himself, Joe Judge asked Mara to call Kenny Golladay just to give him that last little pitch, that last little selling point to convince him to come to New York. And, John Mara said specifically that I told Kenny, aside from what we can help you as a player, we have the resources to help you as a man and for your future. And I think that was, just pushed it right over the top for Kenny. He took no credit for this signing. He think that Kenny already had made up his mind and he was just adding on to all the benefits that the Giants have to offer players like Kenny and Adoree. But, he did mention that they spent a lot of money this offseason and they can't do that every single year. And for the most part, they're hoping that the cap goes up significantly next year. They pushed a lot of that money. They baked a lot of these contracts into future seasons, expecting that the cap is expected to rise. And I believe that it will based on the massive TV deals that was just signed, $1 billion TV deals per year. And I think for the most part, we should expect the cap to jump 210, 220 million, which would be a significant leap from this season where it settled about 182, 185 in that range. So that's a very good sign for the Giants who not overspent, but definitely invested heavily in both sides of the ball to put them in a position to succeed now, especially with Daniel Jones, needing that big body red zone threat, 6'4" Kenny Golladay, and now 6'6" Kyle Rudolph. That red zone presence is going to be ever more present. But I think this is a really exciting kind of situation for Mara to tell us a little about what he's expecting. Just to list off a couple of things. Aside from, the cap expected to go up, they did a ton of background checks with college coaches and vetted these drafted players last season too. So he really wanted to harp on how Joe Judge took a major role in vetting a lot of these players, not only for the free agency this year and really bringing them in for a couple days at a time, but also last year in the draft. He talked to coaches, he talked to personal people, the scouts have all those connections. He really harped on the fact that the Giants are trying to shift their entire presence in terms of culture, that narrative that's been going around with, just so much BS going on behind the scenes with, during Pat Shurmur's era in his first, second year, and Ben McAdoo even with guys like, Eli Apple causing a ruckus and whoever it might be. The Giants did a good job, vetting, and Joe Judge is very on top of setting the culture, making sure they're bringing in good human beings and good football players so they don't have to worry about the BS. They want it to be football and that is it, strictly football and family. And he also mentioned how the players took a really big role in recruiting this year, with Logan Ryan. He flew up from Florida to hang out with Adoree Jackson, to pursue him and help him, make that decision to come to the Giants. Jabril Peppers had dinner with Kenny Golladay. Saquon Barkley was very vocal about getting Kenny Golladay. And a bunch of other players. I'm sure Darnay Holmes even was vocal about signing Adoree, who he has a personal relationship with. So a lot of these players, really took a step forward. And not only are they trying to help this team on the fields, but they're also helping them during the offseason and helping themselves by getting those big names. They probably told the players, we want to spend this offseason. We need your help to bring some of these big guys in. Logan Ryan really took a big role in helping, bring in Adoree Jackson. They have a very close relationship, like brothers. So that was a huge swinging point for them. And that's a big reason why the Giants gave Logan Ryan a 3-year deal in the first place, because they wanted him around. He is very valuable off the field as well as on the field in that trio of safeties they've built in the secondary. So that's really cool. He also, Mara, made sure to, put his faith and confidence in Daniel Jones, saying verbatim, we think the world of Daniel in this building. Obviously, they're 100% behind him. He did mention that, you need to put weapons around your quarterback, especially Daniel, who really didn't have much to work with last year. They obviously spent the money, and he even said that the NFL is a passing league now. He made sure to say that the NFL is very much a passing league, which brings up the question, maybe the Giants have developed since 2018, where, maybe selecting a running back in 2018 the second overall might have not been the best decision. Of course, I love Saquon, great guy, great player. This is nothing against him, but just the running back positional value. That's all I'm talking about right now, not Saquon specifically, but the positional value of a running back, might not be as much as it previously was in years past. past, and I think they have taken a step forward based on what Nick Saban said a couple weeks ago, and that you need to outscore opponents now. It's not all about defense and running the ball. You need to be able to outscore opponents and just rack up points at an astronomical rate. And that requires you to have a very good, supporting cast around your quarterback in terms of receivers. And while Saquon is fantastic, and I love what he offers the team, you need to have guys like Kenny Golladay, Kyle Rudolph, Evan Ingram. People will kill me for saying Evan Ingram, but I'm going to throw him in there anyway. Sterling Shepard. Obviously, you have Darius Slay and even John Ross. Now, he did touch on John Ross, Mara, saying that his elite speed is something that, they might be able to hit on him. Meaning that this 1 year, $2.25 million deal that they offered him, they might be able to strike gold on John Ross if he stays healthy. He is very capable of being a very phenomenal player, very versatile as a gadget kind of guy in those end arounds and just, pushing the field. I like him a lot. I think that unique speed gives him something to work with. The one thing that really hit me in the heart was Mara saying, I'm tired of losing. Same. I'm sure all you guys are feeling the same way. We don't want to be losing any longer. He did also say Joe has done a terrific job inserting a certain culture and the players believe in him, which is great for your head coach. He very much is a disciplinary coach, and he keeps guys accountable. He vets them extensively. He asks his players to be involved. And it is a family setting. I do get the sense that he loves football so much. He's at every scouting event. He was at Miami. He was at Penn State. I think he might have been at Michigan too. That he's all over the place. He's taking a head scouting role because that's his background. Joe Judge came as a scout, and that's really where his talents lie, aside from being a disciplinary coach and just a phenomenal head coach in his first year, setting the new culture wave. But I think for the most part, what Joe Judge has done on this team is nothing short of extraordinary. And Mara said it. He said, coming in as a young coach, never having, coached as a head guy in the NFL before, he did such a great job of surrounding this team with good, positive people and players. And he even, he vetted his coaches, everybody that he brought into his front office, everybody he brought into his coaching staff. He made sure that they were good people and they were going to bring many different facets and qualities to this team. But one thing that I did like, there was a couple things left to mention, two of them. One of them is that Mara made sure that Kenny Golladay and Adoree Jackson took complete physicals. I thought that was very important because I think for the most part, coming off a season where Kenny Golladay played 5 games and Adoree Jackson 2-3 games max, they wanted to make sure they were both healthy, and they did that. They really got involved with those two players, made sure they took complete physicals, make sure that that hip injury and that flexor that Kenny Golladay dealt with last year is no longer an issue. Adoree Jackson had a knee injury, no longer an issue. So they made sure those guys are 100% ready to go for 2021. That's a huge positive, and I think I'm, as much as you guys are, very excited to hear that. They vetted these guys not only mentally, but also physically. So very good sign there. The last thing I want to touch on is that Mara did say they're not thinking about Saquon Barkley's long-term deal right now. They just spent $170 million in free agency. They're not thinking about Saquon's long-term deal, which says to me they will pick up his 5th-year option. They will see how this injury goes this upcoming season. They want Saquon to be a Giant for life. But for the most part, I think it's a very good sign that, they're letting this play out naturally, organically. They're not rushing things. They're not offering him a massive deal for no reason. They are being very cautious and conservative with how they approach Saquon's contract. He's coming off a massive injury with an ACL tear. They haven't even seen him post ACL tear. They need to see if he can be that same player, but they want him to be around for life. They think he's a great guy, a great player. And I hope he gets back to 100%. I hope he justifies that. If he can make an Alvin Kamara type impact, there is no question I think, it's worth paying Saquon. But he has to be able to make that impact. First and foremost, he needs to be able to produce at a high level and stay on the field, because the last 2 seasons, obviously, he's missed a lot of time. And that takes a big hit in our confidence in extending him long term. But for the most part, he did say that they're working with the governor's office and the vaccine rollout to make sure that they can have full stadiums next season. They'll kind of rely on the governor's office to tell them what they can do and how many people they can have in the stadium at any given time. So that's kind of the update on that end. But that's kind of the major points that he did say, just kind of regarding Joe Judge. Daniel Jones, he does think that he has what it takes to be a long-term winner in this league. The Giants are not a finished product. He expects them to make the playoffs every single year, but obviously he's been disappointed the last 5 seasons. He wants to see progress now. He wants to see Joe Judge take a step forward, Daniel Jones take a step forward, this entire team become a playoff caliber squad, and I'm excited to see that, guys. But that's pretty much the majority of stuff for John Mara's press conference at 3:45. Hopefully you guys took away a lot of good stuff from this little update podcast episode. Much love for tuning in. Make sure to hit subscribe below on YouTube YouTube, turn off your notifications for Apple and Spotify. And if you like this shirt, go check it out on the store. Really, really cool. Making some really cool merch these days, so keep in touch with that. But of course, much love, and we'll catch you guys on the next video.